Hi, Robbins. How are you today? Good. Good. I'm glad to hear it. We're going to read a book and do a little art, but first, why don't we get moving? Everybody up. Let's do a little count and move. I have the number, what is this? You're right, it's a 5. Let's hop on one foot 5 times. Here we go, Robbins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why don't we hop on the other foot 5 times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nicely done. Let's see what the next number is. You're right, it's a 9. Robbins, let's do 9 jumping jacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nicely done, Robbins. Here is a number 7. Yes, it's a 7. Why don't we go up and down 7 times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nice. How about if we do our Robin circle dance? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nicely done. Robbins, why don't we sing Fire Truck? Here we go. Fire truck, fire truck. I want to ride in a fire truck. Fire truck, fire truck. I want to ride in a fire truck. I want to fall asleep in the fire station. Wake me up when the fire bells ring. I'm gonna put on, oops, my dog got my computer. I'm gonna put on my boots. I'm gonna put on my coat. I'm gonna put on my hat. I'm gonna slide down the pool pole. Whee! And then I'm gonna get in my fire truck, fire truck. Let's all ride the fire truck, fire truck, fire truck. Let's all ride in the fire truck. Yeah. Okay, Robbins, I have a book for you. This book is called The Fire Cat. Come on over, dog puppy. Come on over. There we go. So you can't get into any trouble while I'm reading. The Fire Cat. It's a chapter book. And the first chapter is called Pickles. Once upon a time, there was a yellow cat with black spots in his fur. His name was Pickles. Oops. Pickles was a young cat. His paws were big, and he wished to do big things with them. Oops. Sorry, Robin. My dog is being busy with a bone. Pickles lived in a barrel. The barrel was all that he had for a home. Poor Pickles. Pickles' barrel was in an old yard where there was nothing big to do. So what did Pickles do? He ran after little cats. He ran after every little cat that came into the yard. He chased the little cat out of the yard. This was bad, a bad thing, but it was all Pickles could find to do. Next to Pickles' yard was a house. In the house lived many cats. They called out to Pickles, "You are bad and you cannot be our friend." That wasn't very nice, was it? But Pickles did have one friend in the house. His friend was Mrs. Goodkind. Every day, Mrs. Goodkind came into the yard and gave Pickles something to eat. One day, Mrs. Goodkind said, "Pickles, you are not a bad cat. You are not a good cat. You are a mixed up cat. What you need is a good home, and then you will be good." Mrs. Goodkind picked up the mixed up cat. She took him into her home to live. In Mrs. Goodkind's home, there was a pretty chair for Pickles to sit on. There were toys for him to play with. But Pickles did not want to sit on a pretty chair. He did not want to play with the toys. So he ran back to his barrel in the yard and he began to chase the little cats again. Uh-oh. Mrs. Goodkind said to Pickles, "Things cannot go on like this. Something will happen." The next day, Pickles chased a little cat up an old tree. He climbed after her. Pickles sat up in the tree near the little cat, and he would not let her climb down. Is that nice? Not very nice. After a time, the wind began to blow. It blew and it blew and it blew, and the rain came down hard. It came down harder and harder. At last, Pickles let the little cat climb down and go home. Pickles wanted to climb down and go home too. He wanted to get back into his barrel, but he could not climb down. Sometimes this happens to a cat, and it happened to Pickles. I think he's nervous to go down the tree. Mrs. Goodkind ran to the tree. "Pickles," she called, "please try to climb down." But Pickles could not climb down. Mrs. Goodkind ran into her house. Pickles could see her by the window. She was talking on the telephone. Then she called out to Pickles, "The firemen are coming." A fire truck came up the street and stopped at Pickles' yard. 3 firemen jumped down from the truck. I think they're here to the rescue. Mrs. Goodkind came out of her house. She ran to the firemen and pointed to Pickles. The firemen put a ladder against the tree. One of the firemen began to climb up the ladder. Pickles is still scared, Robbins. The fireman climbed to the top of the ladder. "Come, cat," he said to Pickles. "Let me help you." The fireman picked up Pickles and tucked him into his coat. Then he took Pickles down the ladder, down to Mrs. Goodkind. "Mrs. Goodkind," said the fireman, "is this your cat?" "No, Joe," said Mrs. Goodkind. "Pickles has no home, and he does not want to live with me." "Why?" asked Joe. Mrs. Goodkind answered, "My home is too little for Pickles. Pickles is a cat who wishes to do big things, and someday he will do them. Look at his paws." Pickles put out a paw for Joe to see. "My goodness, Pickles," said Joe, "what big paws you have." Pickles looked at Joe and said the one word he could say, "Meow." And Joe could see that Pickles wanted something very much. Joe gave Pickles a pat. "Pickles," he said, "I will take you to our firehouse. Maybe our chief will let you stay with us." Chapter 2, The Fire Cat. Joe took Pickles to the chief, who was sitting at his desk. There's the chief. "Oh," said the chief, "I know this young cat. He is the one who chases little cats." "How do you know?" asked Joe. The fire chief answered, "A fire chief knows a lot of things." Just then the telephone rang. "Hello," said the chief. "Oh, hello, Mrs. Goodkind. Yes, Pickles is here. He's here. He came with Joe. What did you say? You think Pickles would like to live in the firehouse? Well, we shall see. Thank you, Mrs. Goodkind, and goodbye." Do you think he's going to let Pickles stay in the firehouse? Or no? The chief looked at Pickles and said, "Mrs. Goodkind says you are not a bad cat, and Joe likes you. I will let you live here if you will learn to be a good firehouse cat." Pickles walked quietly up the stairs after Joe. Joe and Pickles went into a room where the firemen lived. The men were pleased to have a cat. They wanted to play with Pickles, but suddenly the fire bell rang. All the firemen ran to a big pole, and down they went. The pole was the fast way to get to their trucks. Pickles could hear the trucks start up and rush off to the fire. There they go. Pickles said to himself, "I must learn to do what the firemen do. I must learn to go down the pole." He jumped and put his paws around the pole. Down he fell. Bump! "Bumps or no bumps, I must try again," said Pickles. Up the stairs he ran. Down the pole he came, and bumped. He tried again, and bumped. But by the time the fireman came back from the fire, Pickles could slide down the pole. "What a wonderful cat you are," said the fireman. The chief did not say anything. "Doesn't this pole remind you of the pole on our playground? Wasn't it exciting when you learned to go down the pole?" Pickles said to himself, "I must keep on learning everything I can." So he learned to jump up on one of the big trucks. There he goes. And he learned to sit up straight on the seat while the truck raced to a fire. The chief said, "What a wonderful cat you are," said the fireman. The chief did not say anything. Pickles said to himself, "Now I must learn to help the firemen with their work." At the next fire, he jumped down from the truck. He ran to the big hose, put his paws around it, and tried to help a fireman shoot the water at the flames. "What a wonderful cat you are," said the fireman. The chief did not say anything. The next day, the chief called all the firemen to his desk. Then he called for Pickles. Pickles did not know what was going to happen. He said to himself, "Maybe the chief does not like the way I work. Maybe he wants to send me back to my old yard." But Pickles went to the chief. At the chief's desk stood all the firemen and Mrs. Goodkind. What do you think's going to happen? The chief said to Pickles, "I have asked Mrs. Goodkind to come because she was your first friend. Pickles, jump up on my desk. I have something to say to you." Pickles jumped up on the desk and looked at the chief. Out of the desk, the chief took. "Pickles," said the chief, "I have watched you at your work, and you have worked hard. The time has come for you to know that you are now our fire cat." And with these words, the chief put the little hat on Pickles' head. He's got his own fire hat. He must be excited. Chapter 3, The Old Tree. Pickles made friends with all the firemen, but he did not make friends with any cats. When the cats came to the firehouse to look at the trucks, Pickles chased them away. The chief called Pickles to him and said, "A fire cat must be kind to everyone. You must be good to the other cats." Little by little, Pickles learned to be good to the cats he met. He made friends with them, too. Thank goodness. My pages are sticking together, Robbins. Then all the cats loved to come to the firehouse. Oh, no. On rainy days, most cats stayed at home, and Pickles sat upstairs with the firemen. One rainy day, as he sat there, he thought to himself, "How bad I was when I chased the other cats. Once I chased a little cat up a tree. Oh me, oh my, why did I do that?" Suddenly, Pickles heard the chief call out, "Cat in a tree, cat in a tree." He feels bad about what he used to do, doesn't he? Fireman Joe and two other men slid down the pole. Pickles slid down after them. He heard the chief say, "The tree is in the old yard next to Mrs. Goodkind's house." "Oh," thought Pickles, "that's the yard where I lived, and that's the tree." Pickles jumped up the truck and stood with the firemen. They're off to the races. Here we go. Anyway, away they rode to the yard, and there, in the wind and rain, stood Mrs. Goodkind, pointing to a very, very little cat. The firemen put a ladder against the tree. The ladder scared the little cat, and then she ran to a high branch where the firemen could not reach her. Joe said to Mrs. Goodkind, "I don't know what to do." But Pickles knew what to do. He began to climb the ladder. There goes Pickles. He's being brave because, do you remember? He was nervous about being up that high. Pickles climbed up and up. It was hard work, but at last he came to the top of the ladder. Then he climbed up the tree until he came to the little cat. "Come, cat," he said to her, "let me help you." He picked her up and took her gently down to Mrs. Goodkind. Mrs. Goodkind thanked Pickles. Then she said to him, "I always knew that someday you would do big things. Today you have done something very big." Pickles waved a paw at her as if to say, "Mrs. Goodkind, this is only the beginning." And he rode home to the firehouse, a proud, happy cat. What did you think of Pickles the fire cat? Did you like that book, Robbins? What was your favorite part? I like that too. I like when he got his little hat. I also liked when he was a very brave cat and he rescued the little cat. That was a good part too. All right, I thought we would do a quick little art project. We're going to make a handprint fireman. I had so much fun when we painted our hands the other day to be a crocodile. I thought we would do it for some fireman art as well. So I have a bowl and a piece of white paper, a piece of orange paper, and some red paint. I'm going to draw a circle around my bowl. You could use a plate, you could use a cup, you could make it big or small, whatever you like. And now I am going to cut out my circle. I am going to stay on that line and eat the spaghetti. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down when you're cutting. And I'm using my helping hand. Here we go. Almost done. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Using that helping hand. Okay. My circle is cut out. Now I'm going to put a little bit of glue. Oops. I always do that, Robbins. Put a little glue on my circle. There we go. And I'm going to glue it right down. I'm going to put it right about there. Okay, kind of in the center of the page. Right? Now, I'm going to draw kind of a hat. Kind of a fire hat. And this time, I'm going to do what we did before. I'm going to try to stay in the lines when I'm painting. I drew kind of a hat. I'm going to try to stay in the lines while I'm painting this hat. So let's see if I can do that. This is something we don't usually do with paints, do we, Robbins? We kind of just paint away. Trying to stay in the lines that I drew. Doing a pretty good job, I think. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Kind of a fire hat, right? Now I'm going to give my fireman 2 eyes, the nose, and a big smile. He's a happy fireman. Now comes the fun part, Robbins. I'm going to paint my hand. I miss painting your hands at the art area. Do you remember how it felt? It felt cold and squishy and ooey and gooey. Oh yes, it feels so good. I love that feeling. Let's see. There's one hand painted. Now I'm going to paint the other hand. I'm all painted. Oh boy. This is fun. There we go. I've got 2 red hands. And now I'm just going to press them down. And that is my happy fireman. All right, Robbins. Well, I'm not going to touch my computer because I'm filled with paint. There we go. Well, Robbins, I hope you had fun learning about Pickles the Fire Cat. He's a great friend. I really liked doing some artwork with you, and I loved singing with